and welcome. I'm so happy to have you on here. So today I'm going to be talking to you about women and tech and why representation matters. What is representation? So, hello, I'm Pachi. I am Brazilian, studied in Brazil. I did live in the US for 9 years, but I decided to come back. I work as a developer advocate at GitHub, and I work with a focus on the Brazilian community. And I am one of the co-founders of Feminist Tech. There's an online Brazilian community of women and non-binary people that create content around tech and people that support and help these content creators. So very part of Feminist Tech. And today I'm going to be talking to you about the woman and tech. And here's our agenda. A little bit of history. We're going to dive back to Ada Lovelace, and how we got where we are today. I'm going to tell you what is representation and why that matters. And we are in a tech conference, and I know that, even if Scotland is a very diverse conference, I would say that at least half of you are women, probably more. So I'm going to give you a little bit of Elisha tips in the end. So let's start with a bit of history. We all know, or most of us know, and if you don't know, I'm going to learn now, that Ada Lovelace is the mother of computer science. Like a long time ago, she did very first algorithms. And we all know that today, we don't have many women in tech. So how did they go from, a woman being the mother of it all, and now we have, I think 7% of developers being women, Let's talk about it. So if I ask you, hey, mention some cool women in the history of programming or STEAM, we can mention Ada Lovelace that have a little drawing of her in this picture, Grace Hopper, Margaret Hamilton, and here in the bottom I have a picture from the movie Hidden Stars. Hidden or hiding, I don't know. But I really highly recommend for you to watch this movie. It's really great and it's really relevant to this talk. And there's some women that you can mention. You can mention more. Maybe you can count in the fingers of one or even two hands if you're studious. But the truth is that there are many women who participate in the history of computing. And I talk about computing because I'm a programmer, but this can be applied to all these STEAM areas. And somehow their names were erased from history for a bunch of reasons. Now you know that women's names are not that interesting. We're not that interesting back then. And also, it was very easy for men to claim that they did things. So I'm not going to get into specifics because I don't know. I just know that many women did things, and that's just less important. So, and how many names that you can tell from heart of women. So drink water. Water is good. Here I have a picture that I like very much. So it's a picture with, I would say, maybe 25 students. It's the picture for the first class of computer science, excuse me, of a very famous Brazilian university. And in this picture, and I'm not going to count them, but let's say we have 25 students, and from those 25, 20 are women. And if you go to college now, or know somebody that goes to the college now, you know that this is very different nowadays. All my friends that went to college, I think the maximum of women that have been in computer science class from the people I know was like 5.5 gave up before the graduation. So what changed? Just to cement the numbers. So here I'm showing a graph from gender in tech, from Stack Overflow, and I have numbers from 2018 to 2021. So the number of men in tech didn't change much. It went to 92.9 to 91.6. So there's a lot of men. And in the top of the graph, you see that the number of women didn't change much either. In 2018, had 6.9. 2021 had 5.3. And that number went down. But on the right side, non-binary people went from 0.9 to 4%. But as you can see, there are not many women. And there are a lot of men. And if you go back to that picture that I showed apart, this is going to be the case, right? So what happened? If you ask for people that are not in tech, hey, what's a programmer? How do they look like? They're gonna tell you this. They're like hackers, lots of computers, hold on. And most likely they're not gonna tell you there. They're not gonna tell you they are a woman. Okay. And if you go to see people in tech, that what a programmer looks like, they're gonna tell it as a woman on the page. Like serious dudes. I swear, like 9 in 10 men I know that program, they have beards on. Is that a programmer style? Does that have what you code? I don't really want to know. Answer me. So, and this is stereotype. How was this stereotype created? This stereotype is so strong and so harmful. So, if we go back here, when you have this awesome woman coding, those cool women, they are computers. They do like some really wild numbers and they send me to space. And, do some programming. But programming wasn't cool back then, right? Personal computers were the even thing. So no, that's a woman thing. I didn't do that. I didn't be big. But with the part of the personal computer, programming started to be interesting. So the men wanted to program. Even like the first marketing for a personal computer, they were marketed towards boys. So here, buy this cool thing for your boy, for your girl. Just keep buying the baby dolls. The thing is, when men wanted to get into programming, that was a heavily woman area. They didn't want to share. That's it. They didn't want to share. They wanted to own it. So actually, there were in some research I did, I found out that men in tech, basically, organizations were created. And they started to share some fake news. This is about North America, right? I cannot tell about the entire world. But I bet things were not very different over the world. So fake news like, hey, did you know that if your code is made by women, have a higher error rate? Was not true, but it's not hard for people to believe back then that, hey, it's a woman can think. Seriously, some people would think that woman can think. And eventually, this is all that a programmer became. Or it is. And the stereotype is very harmful, like I mentioned. Why? Because it doesn't give us a space. I am a Brazilian white woman. I was in the US for 9 years, where I was woman of color for some reason. And for me, just weird because in Brazil I'm white. In the US, I wasn't, anyways, Latina. So we had to hear things like women are not interested in tech. Hey, their brains were not wired like that. Like, really listen to that. People really say that. And that's not the issue. Like, when somebody asks, hey, why there are not many women in tech? That's what they have to hear. And that's just not true. And that's due to the lack of space and the lack of representation. So before I tell you what is representation and what it matters, I'm going to tell you about awareness. Last year with Feminist Tech and other things I did, I was working with a focus on women that were interested in learning tech, giving them opportunities, mentorship. And that was great. I got like a mentorship group with like 50 women, and some of them I was able to get some free classes for them. But then I realized that the problem runs deeper. Lots of women, they don't even know that's possible for them. They didn't know as a thing. Like for the 50 women and the mentors, and for the women that I know, most of them start seeing programming as a career or tech as a career path in their like late 20s, 30s. Sometimes they have a college or something totally different. It's because when they're younger, that's not shown to them as a thing that they can do. Like there's research that shows that girls around 9, 11 years old, they start showing interest in STEAM. But because of the lack of representation, they just, and support, they just give up. And by the time they're 14, 15, they totally change their minds. Not because they don't want to, because when they look at the field, they don't see anybody that looks like them. Representation. Representation tells you, hey, you can be here too. I love to tell everybody the history of why I'm here today. I'm here today because I started coding in 2018. In 2019, I attended the last Codeland conference in person in New York City. And there, Alice Patel gave a talk about why you should start blogging. And there was that woman on the stage telling me to blog. And I started blogging. And eventually, blogging brought me to that route. And I told myself, I'm going to be a speaker at Codeland. And I am. But if hadn't seen Ali giving that talk of the day, I don't know if I will be here today. And me, you see me here today. And in 2 years, you're going to be here too. Because, hey, you're going to say, hey, I don't know if we'll be here if Pachi hadn't given a talk. And that's what representation is. Seeing people like you. And like, I'm talking from a woman perspective, but this applies for people with disabilities, from Black people, people of color, immigrants, LGBT plus people. So representation matters in all groups. And I'm sorry, not sorry, but if you're a white man, you don't know what it is, because when we look for the size, there's a lot of women. So just think about that. It's kind of interesting. But that's why your presentation matters. And I'm running out of time, so let's go. So if you want a more practical thing for why you should care, diversity and inclusion, they're not the same, but both important. Diversity is like when your company say, hey, we're gonna open this special job openings for women. Okay, that's great. But then without inclusion, diversity doesn't work very well, because we hire 5 women in a place that doesn't have any support for women. So they just leave. That's what inclusion does. You really include them. You prepare the other coworkers in space to be really supportive, so this woman can grow and flourish. Now, we need a woman. We need more people, diversity, for real innovation. Hey, people using products, they are all different. If your product is all built by white men, they all going to have white man mentality. So you cannot cover all the growing fields and things. So if you want to create high quality products and services, you need diversity. And let's go to the final line. Pachi, you can help us to help you. Let's help each other. So first, choose your words carefully, okay? Don't underestimate anybody, don't overestimate anybody. Treat women how you treat men. Isn't that weird? In Portuguese, it's even harder, because Portuguese is a gender language. So, if you say programmer, you probably mean a man. So, it's very tricky. But you speak English, so that's it for you. But be very mindful of your wording when you talk to a woman, especially the ones that are starting. Her egos and their confidence is really low, so you can really break it if you don't choose your words correctly. Ask questions to yourself. A lot of things that we call the neck check. So if you just look to your sites, remotely, it's not as easy, but like, look at the company, the people in your team, in your Zoom call, how many are men? How many look like you? How many don't look like you? Why? If you have some leadership power, say, hey, why is things like that? But sometimes you don't have any leadership power. You start asking yourself those questions to nurture your critical thinking. And that in the long term is gonna pay off. It's gonna make you really care about this. Motivate women around you. Yes. If you have any woman that start coding, just hey, go girl. No, don't say girl. Don't say girl. Don't call them girls. They're women. And that's but yes, if you have some women in your life that have a job they don't love, why don't you say, hey, why don't you start learning code? One of those little things. If you have a woman around you, why don't show that as an option? That's what happened to me. I was a nanny, and my brother was like, hey, why don't you learn to code? And I'm like, no way. He was like, you can do it. I was like, maybe I can. And I tried, and here I am. Last but not least, more action and less tweeting. I love every March of the beautiful people posting, I support women, I'm an ally. That's okay, that's great. But how about you actually do things? When your coworkers start making sexist jokes about your woman coworker, why don't you cut them down? Why don't you be more inquisitive? Just do things, okay? and not because your mom is a woman, you have a daughter. No, because women are human beings that deserve as much respect as anybody else. I really love this quote that says that feminism is the radical belief that women and men should be treated equal. And this is with a quote that I this. So on Pachi, I go for Pachi quotes. The socials, especially Twitter. I love Twitter. So my DMs are open, especially if you're a woman that wants to start a tag or create content. Please just DM me and say hi. That's all for today. Thank you so much.